Hi, everyone. This is Avery Peel, host of the Hope Matrix on Campus podcast. We are here to share the science, strategies, and stories for how to hope. I am the Community Hope Specialist at the Shine Hope Company, and Shine is the mnemonic for how we teach hope. So when we talk about hope, we talk about the stress skills, happiness habits, inspired actions, nourishing networks, and eliminating challenges, which are the thinking patterns that get in the way of our ability to hope. Hope is a skill. You can measure hope, you can teach hope, and you can start practicing skills to activate higher hope in your life today. And on this Hope Matrix on Campus podcast, we aim to bring in guests, experts in science, people with stories, and those that have strategies for activating hope in your life. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Hope Matrix on Campus. I'm so excited to be here with you today, and we are going to be discussing all things majors and minors with my two guests, Emily and Lindsey. Thank you guys so much for being with me today. I'm so excited to have you here.
Yes, we're excited to be here.
I'm so excited.
So I'm going to let them introduce themselves. Miss Lindsey, do you want to go first?
Yes. Hello, everybody. My name is Lindsey Young. I work as the Assistant Director for Mental Health Education at the Brooks Center. I'm excited we're talking about majors and minors today because my undergraduate major has not a lot of things to actually do with what my career is now. So I'll be excited to dig into that later, but I'm excited to chat.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
And I'm Emily Brisben. I'm a senior at the University of Dayton with a major in psychology and a minor in social work. And I don't know, I'm so passionate about both of my major and my minor that I just feel like this will be a good conversation to have.
Absolutely. And we're so excited to have y'all here today. I'm so excited to share all of your insight and your personal experience. And our goal is that this can help other students figure out what they want to do, or if they have any challenges working the system to change their majors, we can help them figure that out too.
Sounds great.
Amazing. Okay, so I just want to start by talking about what your major and minor is and how you came to that decision. So Emily, I know that you've told me previously that you knew for a long time that you wanted to go into psychology and social work. So how did you come to that decision? What led you to this?
I have had a lot of personal battles with mental health, and I also know how much other people struggle with it. And from such a young age, I've always really cared about other people and known I wanted to help them. My mom passed away when I was 13, and I realized that I didn't want anyone to feel the way that she did. So I decided that I wanted to go into therapy and be a therapist. And I just thought that talking to people and helping them through the worst things that they could possibly go through was something that I was always passionate about. And the fact that it's actually a career is crazy to me.
No, that's really beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, though.
That is beautiful. And Lindsey, what was your major and minor when you were in college?
Yep. So my undergraduate, I was a discipleship ministries major. I did not have a minor, but my goal was really the focus was small groups. Always loved small groups. So there, kind of a trend throughout my story is that there's themes that were in all of these different majors or careers and things like that. But I just I love the power of what can happen in a small group. And when it gives folks the opportunity, I think, to be more vulnerable and ask harder questions. And so that's really what my major was focused on was, the formations of small groups, the theories, the developments, how to write curriculum, how to teach and lead conversation and things like that. And then my master's degree was in higher education and student affairs, which was the direct connection to what I'm doing now. But there was lots of little points throughout the way.
Absolutely. I know there are so many majors that can lead to so many different jobs, especially like a psychology major. You could go anywhere with that. You can go to sales and not even do psychology. So
I've seen people that do that. I have had some people in the groups on campus that were psychology majors, and they were literally, the point was to go into sales.
yeah,
To be able to do that. It was like marketing psychology or something. It's very
yeah,
cool.
It's
yeah. No, whenever I had a psychology degree too. And whenever I graduated, I was talking to one of my mom's friends, and she was like, you should just go into sales. You don't have
Mhm.
to go get your master's degree. You can just go into sales and do like psychology marketing. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I have literally never even heard about that. I mean, people need to talk about what you can do with your major so much more. And that can be like a whole other podcast.
Yes, 100%. Transferable skills.
yeah.
Twinkle lights here, right? Like,
Absolutely. So I kind of want to talk a little bit more about the decision to, I mean, because whenever you pick your major, you're basically deciding what you want to do with the rest of your life. And I know that those can change. You can add minors. I added a minor my senior year of college just because I had enough electives that I might as well. But it wasn't even in my plan. It was just something that I decided to do last minute. So, did either of you ever switch your major or like halfway through college decide that you wanted to focus on something within your major? I know, Lindsey, you kind of touched on that. So will you elaborate on that?
yeah. So I started college as a youth ministry major, and really I realized that was just because I loved youth group in high school and I didn't want to leave. And so as I, started figuring life out and kind of what I was passionate about, I got involved in some things, some organizations at my school, and I was like, okay, I think this is more than just what did I like, but what are the parts of things that I find really valuable? I'm just the kind of person, I was just talking to a student today who was like, yeah, I'm not really somebody that needs to like be passionate about my job. I just need a job to pay my bills, and then I'll be passionate about things outside of it. And that's just like never how I've been. I'm like, I need to really be passionate about what I'm working in. And Emily, I think, you talked about how, your personal tragedies, but also your personal overcoming has really guided your direction. And I think that's really similar to me. I've really always wanted to step into places with folks, in ways that folks have been willing to step in with me. So I think that was a big deal, but it was, I got to meet, some of my friends were in the major that I ended up shifting to. And that was helpful to be able to say, like, what was this like for you? It's one thing to read a course description, and it's another thing to get to actually hear somebody and talk to somebody who's going through that program or who's graduated from it. So I think that was really helpful for me as I was kind of shifting. And the same thing is what led me to my graduate program. I didn't just cold call, decide to go to UD for graduate school. I talked to people who worked here. I knew folks who were in the program. And I think, I'm very much a who do I trust and whose opinion do I want to let like is going to hold different weights for me. And so that's been really impactful on my journey and my decision making.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that y'all are both very similar in the ways that you decided to major in what you majored in. But I also think that everybody's going to really appreciate these two different point of views as somebody who's like looking back, thinking like, well, yeah, well, this is how I did it, but I had all of these things to help me. And Emily's point of view is I'm in it right now, and this is what I decided, and I'm still making these decisions. So, Emily, tell me what you want to do with your position. What do you want to do with the major and minor that you've chosen?
So, like I said, I always knew I wanted to go into therapy. I love one-on-one therapy. I have a therapist, and I've been to grief groups and everything. I was in a grief club in high school where we would literally skip like half our bell and eat lunch, and it was anyone who lost someone just got to sit and talk about it and like do crafts. So, I've always been really driven to grief counseling. Um, More specifically, which I think is what I'm going to end up doing, but the trouble with psychology is getting your master's degree. And I think I've always known what I've wanted to do, but it's been a really hard struggle realizing that I have 2 more years of school and I don't know if mentally I can do it, which I know I'm going to and I will be able to because I know what I want to do. It's just I guess no one really talks about, like, even though it's so easy when you know what you want to do, it's so hard to actually get there because it'd be so easy to do just like an easy major and do whatever job, but it being so focused on something that I'm so passionate about has been hard in ways that I never expected.
Yeah, just because you're passionate doesn't mean it's not hard work,
Yeah.
right? Like,
I mean, it's so hard.
yeah, it's like we've been
Exactly.
in school our whole lives, and now
Yeah.
you're telling me I need to go back.
Mhm.
Like, I need to do more. I
Yeah.
swore I would never go back to graduate school.
Yeah,
I
I
was like,
know.
there's
That's what I
no
was saying too.
way, like, over my dead body. And then I didn't go back to grad school until I was in my late 20s. This is actually my third career.
Oh,
So even
wow.
though I haven't switched a bunch of majors, my career has bopped. And I think, but when I realized a master's was a part of it, I kind of had that moment too with you, like what you were saying, Emily, where it's like, I just don't know if I have it in me, right?
Yeah.
So I hear you.
Definitely. And those majors that require you to get a master's degree to have the job that you want really need to be talked about more too. Because I went and talked to a counselor and was like, I want to major in psychology. I want to be a counselor. And she said, okay, well, don't switch your major to psychology unless you are absolutely 100% willing to go to graduate school because that is a requirement.
Uh-huh.
Dang, I just don't know. I don't know if I'm okay with that. Like, I was in the same boat. But I feel like everyone needs to have that one person to tell them, be like, you need to go to graduate school if this is going to be your major. And if this is
Yeah.
what you want to do, you're going to be required to get a master's or even higher education.
Yeah, I mean it's the whole old like joke that's like we're asking 18-year-olds to decide what they want to do for the rest of their lives and make these commitments, right? Like not only are we committing to possible student loans, but it is, yeah, to a master's degree. And I think that's something that we really disservice students by not being honest. Like you said, like I'm really glad that you had somebody to go, just so
Yeah.
you know, this is something that you have to do. They're not waiting until junior year to find that out. And right, like I always love teaching about the brain. I'm not like neuro anything, but like
I was saying I love hearing about the brain.
so we have like our amygdala, it's like our alarm center, all that stuff, right? And then we have our prefrontal cortex, it's in the front of our brain, it's our decision maker. It's wild to me because our prefrontal cortex is literally not even fully developed until we're 25, 26 years old. But we're asking 17 and 18-year-olds to make a decision and the pressure that it has to be the end all be all decision when you have 7 years before your brain is even fully cooked, right? Like I'm like,
Yeah.
of course it's hard to make a decision to do that. And then there's this like societal shame that comes with changing your mind, but that's what happens when our brain develops is our minds are going to change, right? So it's just like I think it's a really unfortunate thing that our society does is put students in this spot to to feel like they have no other choice but to make a lifelong decision when like from a brain perspective we really can't do that to the
Absolutely.
fullest. I don't know, it's just crazy to me.
No, I agree
Completely agree.
1000%.
And it's not even the societal shame. It's also the fact that if you switch your major too late into college, you're going to have to go to more college to finish
Yeah.
that degree.
Yeah.
More
And-
money. Like,
Yeah.
It's crazy.
No,
yeah.
it definitely needs to be talked about more. I
Yeah,
wish
and
that somebody had had this conversation with me when I was a freshman in college.
Yeah, I feel like 17 and 18-year olds like don't have enough wisdom or experience in life to know what they want to do. And it's just crazy that they expect us to do that.
Yeah. You're signing on to loans.
Yeah.
And I think you can make a decision, right? But it's what are we doing to remind people that it's okay to change your mind? Like my favorite color when I was 18 was not my favorite color when I was 20. And it's not my favorite color when I'm 31, right? Like if these little things are going to change, our friends are different. Like we're allowed and we're supposed to change and grow. But when we box people in to this like very specific, like you're not allowed to move or change or you're a failure, right? Or you quit or you gave up. or now, like you said, you have to go take more school or whatever. It's just you know, like it is a conversation that I wish somebody had with me, right? Like to be like, hey girl,
Yeah,
this isn't the end all be all. You're allowed to make some moves.
exactly. So I also want to ask y'all, did either of you have any conversations with advisors or faculty at the universities that helped you through this, or did you make decisions all on your own? Did you have to figure it out by yourself? And I know that like we have a degree audit here, which I'm sure that y'all do too. So, but like I kind of figured out the degree audit on my own, figured out how to work it and what I would need to add my minor. And whenever I saw that I had all of the classes that I needed, I was like, great, I'm adding it. And I kind of figured out how to do all that by myself. But did either of you have anybody to help you through that?
I felt like my advisors here helped me if I had questions, but I never knew the right questions to ask. And I was the kind of same way as you that I figured out our online degree system early in, like probably a year in, and realized that I had been taking like all the wrong classes. And there were so many options for classes that I didn't even know about. And there were so many options for minors I didn't even know about. Like it was just crazy to see that I had more options than I thought. And I wish someone kind of went through and explained everything I could have taken and I could have chosen what interested me rather than just trying to get it out of the way.
Definitely.
Yeah, I did have an advisor. I was in a pretty small major. I know discipleship isn't like the most common major out there. I also went to a school smaller than UD. My undergraduate class had about 3,000 students. So it's less than half the size of what UD is. And so I think there was definitely some conversations, but honestly, I leaned more on my friends when I was having those conversations. I was a first gen. My brother and I were first gen in our immediate family who went to like a 4-year college. My mom did a like a community college 2-year associate degree. So we really kind of had to figure it out on our own. And I think that's a big factor too. Like I had to kind of just pull myself up by my bootstraps and say, what do I want to do? And I think because of that, maybe I felt a little bit more isolated in making those decisions. Like I wanted to feign like I had my crap together. And like I knew everything, but similarly, like I had to figure out the degree program. I had to kind of go through and I didn't let myself get really creative. But I think I was scared to be, right? Because again, like I felt like if I changed my major, I was failing, or if I changed my mind, then everybody who said, are you sure you actually want to go into ministry for a full-time job? Like, how much money are you going to make? How much, right? It felt like this moment of vulnerability that I needed to keep my armor up and not say, what does this look like? I have no regrets about my undergraduate major, right? Like it has been an amazing for transferable skills. My faculty was wonderful. But I think that fear of a judgment maybe from folks who didn't understand. I think similarly thinking about psychology, I've had so many students say that their parents are like, what are you going to do with a psychology degree? Right? Or their friends who already have full-time jobs as a marketing major, you know, at starting their senior year. So I think that criticism sometimes or judgment can really impact folks. And I know it impacted my ability to even consider another option. I was like, this is what I picked. This is what I have to do. I will not even look. So I think that was a little different for me.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. And I totally get like the fear of change. And I mean, it's hard to change your mind when you're in college because you're not only changing your major, you're changing your career path and potentially your friend groups if your friends are the people in your classes.
Yeah.
Whenever you change that direction, so many things in your life change at the same time. However, so many things stay the same. And I think that a big part of this conversation is that it's okay to change.
Yeah.
And that maybe you don't have classes with those people anymore because you changed your major, you can still be friends with them. Reach out to them outside of class. Go get a cup of coffee and talk about your new major. And like these things should be more normalized. So I'm so glad that we're talking about this today. And I want to jump right into the SHINE framework, which we're going to start out with the stress skills. And stress skills are the first key to helping your stress response. So your stress response is something that happens just whenever you're stressed by anything. Or if like you hear somebody yelling outside, you're in your stress response, you do things like your stress skills to help relieve that. So I want to ask y'all, and I'm going to start with you, Emily, about some of the things that you did to help your stress response. And this can be anything like exercising or writing in a journal or a 90-second pause, belly breathing, anything that you did to help calm yourself down.
So this is actually a perfect question for me because all I preach is like how you have to be mindful to be less stressed, and you have to really be present in the moment, and you have to do that even in moments that you're not stressed. So I often try to do things that'll keep me grounded throughout the day, that'll work, that I'll remember to implement when I'm actually stressed or anxious. A big one for me is journaling. I will write every single thing that I think of down, and also drawing. Even though I'm not a great artist, I'll just literally doodle all on the page just how I feel. And that's always been a big helpful thing that I've done. Or different grounding breathing exercises, like finding every color of the rainbow in the room that you're sitting in and taking a breath each time you find one. That's always been a really important one for me and has calmed me down in so many stressful situations.
I love that. That's amazing. I've never heard of that one before. I need to start using that.
Yeah, that one's my favorite. Because you can do it anywhere. I'll do it when I just sit down in the classroom before the class starts to like realign myself, and I'll just be like, okay, something red, something orange, and so on. And it really helps.
Definitely. I definitely want to start using that. That one's really cool. I love that.
Wow.
Yeah, it's my favorite.
Might have to put that in my slides. I'll credit you.
Do it.
So, Lindsey, what are some of the stress skills that you use in your job?
Yeah, so I think a little similarly, I'm pretty aligned with Emily on kind of the mindfulness pieces. I'm a very image-driven person. Like I love a good metaphor. I love a good imagery moment, right? And I think it's been important for me to figure out like what those things are that make my right like our amygdalas, our alarm system, right? Like what are those things that are putting it into that stress moment, into that fight or flight, and what are my signs that I've been activated, I think has been really helpful for me, right? So like I know I just freeze, like that is like my go-to, like I just freeze, I feel like I can't do anything. And so I feel like when I can almost like visualize my a little amygdala, and just saying like, what do they need right now to know that for my brain to know that it's safe, right? And so I think the grounding, those moments of I love the old 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 kind of grounding moment. That's been incredibly helpful. And I learned that in college when I was really struggling. I do the job that I do because of the folks that stepped into my life when I was 19, 20 years old, when it didn't feel like there was hope. And they taught me those skills. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 was something though that I got taught, and I literally looked at my counselor and said, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Like I sassed him so hard, and I was like, there's no way it's gonna work. And he's like, fine, go prove me wrong. And so I tried, and lo and behold, it worked, right? And so I think having those moments of just saying like, even it's 2024, right? I'm at the University of Dayton, I'm in my office, I'm in my chair, like what does that look like? So I think the grounding is really helpful. Something else that I've similarly done, I know, Emily, I like that you said, like, what are the things that I'm doing so I'm already grounded? I think a lot of times we wait to get activated to then have to reground, but instead, like, how are we strengthening? So every single night I just started my 7th volume. I think I'm going on like year 4. Every night before I go to bed, I write down 3 things I'm grateful for that day and 3 affirmations from that day. Because I know that gratitude and shame can't exist in the same field, which I think is really cool. So like if I'm feeling icky about something, if I'm practicing gratitude, it like manually shuts off any feelings of ick. And then just to have those affirmations to be able to remind myself, right? Like at my core. Like, I'm valuable, I'm worthy, I'm loved, I'm seen, I can do what I put my mind to. I'm unapologetically myself.
Yes.
Like, what do I need? And that's been really grounding to have. It takes me literally 90 seconds to do it every night before I go to bed. But that's the last thing that I think about. And it's been a really helpful skill to have. Yeah, but I'm also like a crocheter, I'm a crafter. Like, I think that's been a really helpful stress release thing that I picked up in college.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Those are really amazing stress skills. And I feel like y'all are teaching me stuff. Like, this is stuff I need to go and learn and I need to go and use in my daily life. And I really, really appreciate both of you mentioning that you find things that work for you and then you go out and use them in your everyday life. And I think that is so, so, so important because a lot of people will go out and be like, okay, well, I guess I need to try breathing now because I'm already stressed. But having that stress skill that you already know works for you and then using it in your day to day life and when you're stressed out is so much more beneficial because I feel like trying new things can also be really stressful. And so I know, like, whenever I first started working here, I first started like really thinking about my stress skills and learning some new ones. And I started trying some new ones when I was already stressed. And it was just more stressful because I was like, I don't even know if I'm doing this right. This is not helping me. So I really appreciate y'all saying that. And I think that it's something really important to learn early on and to use in your day to day life.
Mhm.
And Lindsey, you mentioned crocheting and doing crafts, which I think leads us right into our happiness habits.
Mhm.
So, happiness habits are things that keep you in your upstairs brain so that you're thinking more positively than negatively. And I want to talk about those a little bit and just think like, which these could be anything. This could be crafts. This could also be exercise or nutrition, or I mean, anything that you do that makes you happy. Really. Like, I get a coffee every day, and it's probably bad, but
No,
coffee
I was just gonna
is
say, I literally drink my coffee on my porch every single morning and it has changed my life. Like, I just need to sit out there and just sip it and just like be outside for a second and like realign myself. And I've been every day that I don't do it, I've had a bad day.
oh my gosh, get that
Such a
vitamin
good
D.
thing. I love that you do that.
So this can be also like non-negotiables. Like Emily just said, is that like a non-negotiable? Like, that is what helps you have a good day every day.
Yes, that it will make me wake up and I'm just like ready to start my day. And I don't know if it's the caffeine in the coffee or like the fact that I can like sit by myself for a little bit and like realize how I feel and like understand how I feel that day and how I
Yeah.
can incorporate that to the rest of the day. I don't know what it is, but something about it just sitting alone for a second and like before my whole day starts has been really beneficial.
No,
I
I
love that
think
you're
that's
like,
amazing.
yeah, you're like choosing yourself every morning.
Yeah.
You know, like it's a little way to remind yourself. That's awesome.
Yeah. I
And
also like,
I'm doing that too.
oh, I'm sorry. You go.
No, you're good. I'm gonna start doing that too.
Yeah, you should. I always get really fun mugs because that just motivates me to make coffee. And then it just puts me in a good mood when I have like a cute little mug with me. I'm like, okay, fine. I'll drink my
I
coffee.
love that so much. Okay, what else do you do?
Back to crafts and art, a big one. I've always been into like sewing and needlepoint knitting. A big one that I've gotten into recently is ceramics. Just like being able to like mold things with your hand. It just focuses like more on your body while you can think at the same time. I just feel like it's like the biggest mindfulness thing that I do personally is like crafts and art. Like a big thing my therapist and I do is we'll just make beaded bracelets in therapy and it just gets people talking, it gets people more comfortable and like kind of helps you keep your thoughts in order because you're not really focused on what you're thinking. You're focused on what you're doing.
Yeah, that is so fun, so amazing. So, do you have like your own like table for the ceramics? Like, how do you
I
do
have a
that?
desk at home and I bought like placemats from the Dollar Tree and I bought air dry clay and I would just do it. And then I think next summer I'm gonna try and like get more into it and buy like a wheel and stuff. And there's like communal kilns and all that. So
Gosh.
I want to get into it because there's a pottery place down by my house. So
I love that so much. That is
Yeah,
so
it's awesome.
cool.
Yeah, you're really cool.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. That's such a compliment.
That's
No,
awesome.
that
You're
sounds so
sweet.
fun. Like, I want to start doing that.
It's awesome.
Y'all are
Awesome.
teaching me so much.
Oh, well, I'm glad you love crafting. You should come over to the Brook. We really want to have I work at the Brook Center. That's what I mean when I say the Brook. That's our it's the Brook Center for well-being. So we focus on mental health and LGBTQ plus ed and sexual violence and well-being education. But so we're always trying to have like what are activities that we can do. And I'm a big crafter. I have my little like my little crochet like coasters
Oh my gosh,
and
that's so
that I just always
cute.
have in my office. Yeah, it's that tangible, let me work myself out, like
Mhm.
get my brain out of my head, right? And kind of I like that, like move it to the upstairs,
Yeah.
and kind of have that moment. That's really cool.
Absolutely. I love this so much. So, Lindsey, can you tell us some more about some of your happiness habits and some things that are non-negotiable in your life?
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I mean, I think that nightly journal, I think I might have switched them a little bit. I think it kind of works in both categories for me. Like that is my non-negotiable. If I am out on vacation and I forget my journal at home, I write it in my phone so I can go back and put it in there. So that's a non-negotiable for me. Um, I've been trying to make movement, just like be intentional. I think we can get really, right, can be really, like all or nothing. I think when we talk about exercise and movement, right? Like it has to be, I like worked hard. I burned 1,000 calories at the gym or whatever. But I downloaded that little Finch app. Have you guys seen that?
No, what is that?
Okay, so I in no way am not sponsored by, right? All the posts. I listen to it on the podcast. But it's like this little self-care app and you grow a finch, like a little bird, and as you have these habits, it like grows up with you. And I just like got an ad for it on Instagram because I do mental health education and Instagram knows how to target me. And so every day I just have like go on a 5-minute walk. So right before this interview, I just well, number one, I locked myself out of my office, so that was a good move. But it was in the name of going on, just taking a walk around the block and campus, just to move and not be sitting. And that's something that's just been so good to manage that way. Music and singing is really important to me. I lead worship at my church, and that is something that's very life-giving to me, is just to be able to, whether it's do that or just like really aggressively sing a good power ballad in my car with the windows down, like those are just things that I'm always gonna do, that like give me a Kelly Clarkson song and
Absolutely.
all is just on pause for a minute, so I think just those little things, or I can like find moments of like of awareness, if that makes sense. And there's also a little dock in my hometown about 45 minutes away that I'll go and just sit and I'll read or lay out in the summer or eat lunch, or it's become that place to like be in nature that's like very comforting and calming to me as well.
Yeah, no, that's so fun. I love the Finch app idea. I have never heard of anything like that, like growing a little bird.
I know, that's
Cute.
so cute.
You
I'm
like
like
make a
I'm gonna
little
download it after
friend.
this.
It like goes from a baby to a toddler to a kid, and you send it on little adventures, and I'm like, whatever. Of course, I need to take care of an animal to whatever, but it's very sweet, and I think it just really simplifies like. I know people do it for meds, like to remind themselves to take their meds. It's like, well, I want my Finch to grow up, and if that's what's going to get somebody to consistently take their meds, then let's do it, right? Like,
yeah.
let's grow that little baby bird. So it's
Yeah,
really
sometimes
cute.
it's easier to care about. Oh, sorry. I'm so
No,
horrible at interrupting.
You're fine.
No,
I
you're
don't mean
fine.
to. It's just like I feel like it's delayed. No, I feel like sometimes it's just easier to care about something else more than you care about yourself, and like trying to fix something else rather than fixing yourself. So having a little bird that you can grow is like right up my alley.
It's really cute. Yeah, it's just called Finch.
I'm gonna get it.
And it holds you accountable. Like, if you don't do that for the day, then, I mean, does something bad happen in the bird, or does it just...
No, I've been crushing my goals since I started. I'm like 4 weeks in, and my little bird's a almost a teenager, I think. So
There you go. That means it works.
I know
Oh my
it's doing
God.
it.
That's amazing. I love that.
That's great.
Fun times.
I feel like this also just leads right into our inspired actions. So, inspired actions are your goals, and this can be anything from like a big long-term goal to a micro goal. So, the way that I usually try to explain it is basically just by like everybody has a long-term end all goal. Like, maybe it's just to be successful, or maybe it's more specific, but I set these micro goals to get to that goal. So I want y'all to tell me a little bit about what your big goal is and how you're setting these micro goals to reach that. And if you've ever had to re-goal, and so you can re-goal if like you come to find out like, oh, this goal might be a little bit too big. Let's re-goal and cut it down into multiple different goals so that I can set micro goals leading up to this one goal, which will then lead up to another goal. So tell me a little bit about that.
Emily, do you have thoughts?
I was gonna let you go first this time just because I kept taking the reins.
That's okay. I think in like very like in a non-deep mode, I think about like cleaning the house. Like if I just say I'm going to go home and I'm going to clean my house today, that feels overwhelming. Like it's very important for me to be able to break it down into those little tasks, right? Of just like, okay, I'm going to take out the trash. I'm going to vacuum just this room, right? Or I'm going to do this laundry. Like, so I think any of those things can really help, especially when that like fight or flight gets activated, right? To say, look, it's just a little thing. Like it's just a little one. Like it's fine. It's not a big deal. I think, I think a really big goal I had for a long time was to work with college students. And I definitely had to re-goal. So prior to my career now, I was a domestic and sexual violence survivor advocate. And then prior to that, I worked at my church, working with recovery ministries and with student groups and things like that. And I just continually found that this is what I wanted to do. But initially I was like, okay, well, I want to be a social worker. So I was going to do an MSW program. And then I kind of had to have this moment of, I don't want to be like the crisis response all the time, right? Like I don't know if this is the right fit for me. So like I shifted and then I went to my advocacy world and it was incredibly meaningful. But again, to hear it was just some people can be on the receiving end all the time, and I just knew I needed something that was the prevention, right? So then that was what shifted, I kind of re-goaled back and was like, okay, so graduate school is what that move is. If I want to work with in higher education, if I want to work with college students on a college campus, what do I need to do? So then I dialed back. I need a master's degree. How do I get a master's degree? What school did I want to go to? And then I kind of plucked my way through there. So I think that looked like finding different internships of what opportunities do I want? How do I have a greater understanding of what my transferable skills are? And how can I work on a resume this day or build go find a mentor. I think that was a huge skill to have. So all of those little steps, I think the large goal really was working with students. And I often look around going, there couldn't have been a more perfect job. Like sometimes it feels like this job was just created for me, right? And so I think a lot of that though was those little goals where it felt very frustrating along the way when I would have to circle back and it felt like starting over, but it was just continuing the loop, right? It felt like it was backwards, but I was still moving forward. So I think that's very much how I think about those goals and those things, was just trying to not be so critical if plans change, because life is just frankly not predictable. So I don't know. That's one of my experiences.
Absolutely. I love that so much. And I love that you mentioned that it felt like you're moving backwards whenever you had to re-goal, because it's not like that. It's just a part of the circle. Like you said, I mean, re-goaling isn't a bad thing. It's just a part of life. And sometimes like the goal that once suited you might not suit you anymore. And so you just re-goal, pick a different goal. I love
That's what we talk about a lot, even to go back to the major minor conversation, right? I think we so often view life like it's a maze, that if you make the wrong turn, you're stuck, but really it's a labyrinth, right? Like, have you ever seen a labyrinth? It
Yeah,
looks like you're starting from the outside and it's like, okay, I'm trying to get to the middle. And then you wind up all the way back at the outside. And it's every step forward is a step in the right direction, even if it feels like it's backwards. If you're moving, you're doing something, right? And I just think there's so much validity to finding, like, seeing the value in every step, even if it's not in your initially intended direction, right?
absolutely. And I think that that's really, really, really important for college students to hear, especially college students who their brains aren't fully functional yet. I mean, our prefrontal cortex is not fully developed. Mine's still not, and I'm
Mine's not.
not going to
I know
graduate
that for
school.
sure.
No, I and like to think about this as a labyrinth. I really like that comparison. That it's not, we're not going to get stuck. And like life changes, and we're all making big decisions right now. I mean, I think that that was a great comparison. I love that. And I want to start sharing that with every college student that I encounter because I mean, I'm still having to make decisions right now and re-goal right now. And that it's just
Yeah. I'm in my 30s and I'm still, right? Like, we never stop humaning, you know? Like, it's just a human experience.
it is just human to re-goal all the time and take steps forward. So,
For
Emily,
sure.
tell us a little bit about your steps and your goals that you took.
So I get very overwhelmed personally about goals, like overarching goals, like being like, oh, I need to be a therapist. And then I start thinking of every single thing that goes into it. And I'm like, I get so overwhelmed. So a big thing that helps me is writing it all down. I'm very visual and like I need to see what I'm talking about, what I'm thinking about. Because if not, my head feels like it's spinning in 8 million directions.
Yeah.
But writing down my goals and writing down the values that I hold that relate back to my goals and how I want to act in my day to day while completing those goals is something that's important to me. And like trying to stay positive through it all and making sure that I can like see words on paper of me saying, like, I'm going to take this one step at a time and one day at a time and try my hardest. And like, it doesn't matter how long it's going to take, but these are the little tiny things that I have to do to get there. But I like to do that rather than having like just a huge goal that I look at every single day like that. I'm like, I need to make my to-do list at night before I go to sleep because my head will run until I go to sleep about what I have to do.
Oh, I love that. And I love that you mentioned that you write down the values too within your goals. And I think that's really important. It's really great that you do that. And I don't want to jump ahead, but I think that will also really help you in the eliminating challenges section. Which before we get to that, let's talk about our nourishing networks. And so these are people or animals. It can be anything, really. Your nourishing networks that helped you through your challenges. And I mean, this can be through any challenge of life. Like it can be an advisor who helped you figure out your degree audit, or it can be a counselor that helped you deal with grief. I mean, nourishing networks are super, super important, and it's really important to engage with others and talk about how you feel. And Emily, I know you can relate to that because you're going into counseling. So tell me a little bit about the people that helped you. And Lindsey, we can start with you.
So many people. I am a true people person. I need people in my arena. It is very important to me. So when I think back to my undergraduate time, people were like my support system. Again, are the reason that I'm still here. It's the reason that I'm sitting on this screen and having conversations and living my life joyfully the way that I am now, right? Whether it was my therapist giving me those skills, even 10, 15 years ago, right, when I was in college, going to therapy and talking to, like, there weren't mental health educators even just then, like nobody talked about going to therapy. It was not, I had never been through a mental health education, anything. Right. And so it was really profound for me to see a professional who, like, that was their job. Right. Like, they were a therapist. I was like, I don't understand. Right. Like, this is a thing. So that was really big. I did have faculty members. It was, I was going through some pretty significant challenges in college, and I was like the 4.0 GPA kid in high school, and was involved in everything and friends with everybody, and just wanted to be everything to everybody all the time. And when I was struggling and I was failing classes for the first time in my life, one semester I failed every class but one, because things had just really spiraled out in my personal life. And I remember being so horrified to talk to my advisor, and he was just like, you're the priority. Like, you have to take care of yourself, and I'll never forget that, of just it was like it wasn't like a mushy conversation, right? But it was just like this very cut and dry, like, you're human. You're allowed to have a hard season. The fact that you're doing what you need to do to take care of yourself, that in and of itself, right? So it just met me where I was with grace. And really great, I think, about that network of what support looks like. And then I think now, when I think about the things that are offered and that I get to be a part of in providing networks, right? We have peer educators on our campus. I get to supervise this super amazing group of students called co-pilots, that they are literally trained to do one-on-one conversations with students. They're trained to lead community building small groups for folks and help people figure out how to build their network. And it's just a group full of world changers. As I said here, and I look through all the lists and all the words on this, right? Like, they get to foster that. And I think about the Emilys on our campus, right? And it's very, very cool and very humbling to see what's available, and how much, I think, really, y'all's generation, I know I'm not that much older than you, right? But y'all's generation has changed that for everybody, right? It is because of the work and the conversations you've been willing to have. It's changing it for everybody, and it's changing it for generations to come, so that everybody can actually experience a nourishing network. And, like, I'm just kind of having this, like, washing over me moment of how unbelievable is that to get to share a space with you both, right? Or share a space with the students that I do. So, I don't know. That was a tangent, but it's just, our community is, you cannot emphasize enough how important community is, and just having a human there to listen.
Absolutely. And I think that COVID really brought that out in people, because mental health became such a big thing. And then everybody was isolated. Everybody realized how important the community was, and how the impact that their community had in their life whenever they didn't have it anymore. So I really do think that it is important to have those conversations. It's important to have that community. And I really appreciate that mental health is talked about more today than it was back then.
Me too.
1000%.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Emily, what about yours?
Sorry. For me, I'm a very independent person. I have a really hard time, like, accepting help from other people. I can always be like, oh, I can just figure it out myself. I can do it myself. But at the end of the day, it can be so hard not to have someone to talk to. My favorite nourishing network is my therapist. I think therapy is one of the best things that's ever happened to me. And just taking an hour once a week to talk to someone who knows every single thing about me and literally cannot tell anyone anything I say, unless obviously there's harm. But it's honestly changed my life. I've seen her every week for 4 years, and I have seen the changes in myself and how I can talk to her. And it's like she's in my mind. She's the one person that I feel like I can really trust. I have really good friends and an amazing family who I know I can talk to, but I think therapy is my favorite nourishing network for sure.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for sharing that. I know that it's hard to talk about that sometimes. And I mean, like we're talking about now, it's important for mental health to be a conversation that we can talk about, and for counseling to be normalized, because I truly think that everybody needs to go to counseling.
I think in 10 years, people are going to have therapists like they have doctors. Like, everyone's going to have one.
Like, even if it's a once a year checkup,
Mm-hmm.
like, this needs to happen. You need to take care of your physical health just as much as you need to take care of your mental health.
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah,
talk.
I say every living human being can benefit. Like,
Mm-hmm.
being a human is
Yeah.
hard. It's messy and it's complicated. Like,
It is hard.
there's nothing crazy about this. It's just talking to another human who's got your back. Like,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And like, that is one of the best things in the world to me. Like, you just saying that, like, talking to another human who's got your back.
Yep.
That is amazing. Everybody should go to counseling.
I agree.
I'm
It's
not
just-
endorsing it,
I'm third.
but-
It's the best.
Okay, so lastly, I want to talk about eliminating challenges. And Emily, I want to start with you because you mentioned earlier that whenever you write down your goals or micro goals, you also write down the value in them. So eliminating challenges is basically rumination and negative thinking and worrying to the point of you just stop working but we have to change our mindset to be more positive and to stop rumination. And you're literally just shifting those thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
You're just turning negative thoughts into positive thoughts. And so I really think that what you said earlier about putting the value behind your goals is so important to look back on. Whenever you're in a moment of worry or negative thoughts, it's important to think about why you're doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me a little bit about your values and how you eliminate those challenges.
So I don't know if I can really think of like a pinpoint specific value. I just kind of pick a new one every now and then and be like, I need the feeling to be more honest today. Honest, like with myself and with others. And I'll
Yeah.
try and like mentally keep that in the back of my mind all day. Or I want to emphasize confidence today. So like I'll make a goal of I need to compliment someone even if I don't know them. I always say never hold a compliment in. So it's a big thing that's always in the back of my mind that like even just telling someone else that they look pretty that day will lift me up, which is something that I think is beautiful. I mean, I've done research on it and it is all linked back to the brain and oxytocin, and just providing empathy to others can allow happiness for yourself, which I think is one of the most beautiful things that our mind can do.
Absolutely. That is beautiful. And I love that complimenting others helps you so much.
I've noticed it big time. Just like seeing them be like, "Oh my gosh, thank you." I'm like, "Yeah." And then I just hope they have the I hope it just cheered them up because I know how it feels to get a compliment. And so that's something I try and do every single day because it just keeps, I don't know, it's something that's, or another big thing I do is I try to find something beautiful in each day. Like I'll be sitting in like my friend's car and I'll look out the window and I'll see like two dogs playing together and I'll like make a mental note and be like, that's something beautiful I saw today. And like I try and think about the beautiful things I saw that day before bed. And so that really helps me when I get up in the morning because then I'm like, oh, there were beautiful things that happened even on bad days.
Yeah. I love that so much. That is
beautiful. I guess I've never really like talked about how I've done that until right now. And I'm like kind of realizing it as I'm saying it. I'm like, wow, I actually do those things every single day.
Yeah. I know this whole Shine framework, it's like I said to Catherine whenever I first started working at the Shine Hope company, I was like, I wish somebody had laid this framework out for me when I was a freshman in college. Because if I had known to be doing all of these things or had known that I was doing all of these things, that these things were helping me, like that would have changed my whole college experience. So I think it's funny that you just said you just now realized that you actually do these things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I implemented them in my life without even realizing it, which is crazy.
Which is exactly why we're here to give this layout for someone else, give this framework to someone else so that they can do all of the same things that we're doing or find new things that work good for them.
Yeah.
Lindsey, what are the ways that you eliminated challenges in your life?
Yeah, so I love a good cognitive distortion discussion, which I'm seeing on here, right? A lot of the y- the negative framing and perfectionism. I always say that my favorite one is black or white thinking, right? Like I think that's a really easy one for me to fall into, and I had to do a ton of rebuilding around that. Right? Like it's perfection isn't the goal. It's um and it be an and. Like I think so often, I've had to I find myself, or at least I used to more, finding myself going, it's this or that. But what am I doing? Like how am I limiting myself when I say it's an or instead of an and, right? Like it can be a challenging day, like what you said, Emily. Like if I had a challenging day, I could still remember there was a beautiful moment, right? It was a challenging day and there was still something beautiful today. I messed that thing up and I'm still valuable as a person. And so I think finding the ands has been really, really valuable for me in my life. Um, Something else is just like the opposite action and kind of recognizing what are the things that like kind of what's the mind worm that's been getting me and how can I do something to to counteract that. So I think like my nightly affirmations are a really big one. I started implementing a lot the I am unapologetically myself because I found myself like a lot of other women apologizing constantly for things that just for taking up space. And I didn't even realize it until somebody in my life was like, do you know how many times you just said sorry in the last however many times? And I was like, I didn't, but it really kind of brought that to my mind, right? And so to be able to shift an affirmation to say, I am unapologetically myself. Obviously, that doesn't mean I just get to treat people like garbage and say, I'm just being me, right? Like that's not the goal. But I think it's trying to name them. The rumination, again, Emily, I related a lot to what you said about what am I doing to get my brain to stop spinning? I have all these things to do and I can't stop thinking about them. And I remember one time somebody just saying, just stop, just out loud. I just say stop out loud. And so if I can, right, if I find myself just that tape on repeat, just going stop. I can't do anything about this right now. I'm I'm putting the pause, I'm putting the lid on this for right now, and I will reopen it tomorrow. Like I'll give myself permission to reopen that tomorrow, but I don't need to do it right now. Me freaking out about this is not going to solve anything. Like it's just taking away more brain space than what's necessary. So yeah, I think I had another one in my head, but now it is got um oh, so excited. I had a friend whose therapist suggested this to her and he said to her, give yourself 10 minutes and you can ruminate for 10 minutes. Give yourself permission and then you set your timer. And when that timer is up, then you stop and you literally get up and you go and do something different. And it was just like this really neat thing that it was really, I watched it be really challenging for her. And then it just became something that she didn't need to set the timer anymore. She didn't need a full 10 minutes. She just needed 5 or 2 minutes to think about it and then was able to move on. So I like that, but I'm a very type A person. I really like my structure. So I think that would be really cool too.
No, I love that one. And I think that it's important to feel your feelings and it's important to understand why you're feeling them. And not saying rumination is good because it's not, but feeling those feelings for 10 minutes or ruminating and having that time to be like, okay, here's why I'm feeling this. Here's what's happening. How can I fix it?
Mm-hmm.
Like that is a good thing. And it's good to understand why you're feeling the way you're feeling or why you're thinking about whatever it is that is taking up so much space in your mind.
Yeah.
I really like that you said that. I know that it's always talked about how rumination is like, don't do it. Like, stop ruminating, stop worrying, stop having negative thoughts. But sometimes they're okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's like saying, don't think about the elephant in the room. You're just going to think about the elephant. Sometimes it's just saying, I see you. I can't do anything about you right now. I acknowledge it. And now let me just shift and do something different. And it's very easy than saying, you're not there, you're not there, you're not there,
Exactly. No, definitely. So now I want to tie all of this back together, and I'm going to ask you each what 3 things are that you want people to take away from this conversation. And I'll let you think on it for a second because I want this to be, I mean, like, obviously, this whole podcast is all about helping students through college, helping them pick their majors, their minors, helping them understand that it's okay to change your mind. So, what would you tell a freshman who's choosing a major, or what factors should students consider when switching majors or adding minors or picking college even? Like picking a school is hard. So, what are 3 things that you think that every college student should take away from this conversation?
I think one is that societal pressure should not influence your decision on what your life is going to look like.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I just feel like people, I don't even know. I don't even know where I was. You knew where I was going with that, and then
Yes.
hold on, don't cut what I said, but cut me getting all confused because I got confused with my thoughts.
Okay. Got it.
My brain was running away.
That's okay.
But
Do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think when I think about 3 things, I think the first one is give yourself permission to not know. Um, we can have the best laid plans and we do not know what the future is going to hold, right? So giving ourselves permission to say, I don't know exactly what's going to happen. Um, is a really big deal. Um, but then I think secondarily, it's give yourself permission to change your mind. And there's a difference between I'm going to change my major every 3 weeks and I'm going to sit and I'm going to think and I'm going to process and I'm going to talk to my supportive network and I'm going to figure out what these are and then I'm going to make an informed decision, right? That's really different than just like flipping a page back and forth constantly. But I think giving ourselves permission to say, this is how I used to be. And that's not who I am anymore. And these things are no longer aligned with my values, with my goals. We're allowed to shift and change. If we were the same person when we started college at 18 than we were at 22 when we graduated, or when we get married and have kids and like what there's no point. Like our job, like we're designed to grow and develop and change, right? So giving ourselves permission to do that. And then I think finally it would just be, I don't think anybody needs permission, but you have permission to ask for help. You have permission to reach out and ask for support for anything, right? Whether it's I'm confused and I don't know what to do, or it's all of our conversations about you have permission to go to therapy, right? You have permission to reach out to somebody and say, hey, I'm not okay, right? Or, I need help. I'm in a really rough spot right now. I'm in a dark spot. We That's our innate value. I always like to say, because we have breath in our lungs, we are worthy and we're valuable of that, of taking care of ourselves, of prioritizing our mental well-being. We don't have to work for that. We don't have to do good enough job to be able to reach out and say, okay, I did all the work, now I need help. Like we're allowed to do that now. Like that's our innate value and we deserve that as is. So I think those are my big 3.
Absolutely. I love that. Emily, do you have any final thoughts?
I don't know. I got all flustered for a second and then forgot what I was talking about. So my top 3 would be don't let society influence how you go about your life and your career. Always prioritize yourself. Do what you know is going to make you happy and what you feel in your gut is right. And also, I mean, this kind of goes along with the last one, but take time for yourself. And like school and social life is not everything. Sometimes you just need to be alone and to sit with yourself and to understand who you truly are.
Absolutely. I love that so much. And I appreciate you both so much for taking the time out of your day to join me and help all of the college students across the country, right? Because everybody's going to listen to this.
Everyone.
Everybody.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. You're doing amazing work. And, every little moment has the power to change somebody's life, right? And we're talking about hope. Like, who knows who this is going to end up to? So, Avery, I hope you are also giving yourself credit where credit is due, that you are changing the world by doing this. And Emily,
Doing
you
an
too.
amazing job.
Like, you're amazing. I can't wait to hear about the way that you just therapize the world and just crush it. So, y'all are awesome.
Thank you both so, so much. I so appreciate y'all.
Thank you so much for having us.
Of course. And thank y'all so much for listening. Have a great day. Thank you all for listening to the Hope Matrix on Campus podcast. I hope to have provided you with actionable insights and a framework that you can use to start activating higher hope in your life today. And don't forget that hope is measurable and teachable. This program is designed to assist you in learning about hope, but it should not be used for medical advice, counseling, or other health-related services. I, Fred, the Shine Hope Company, and myself, Avery Peel, do not endorse or provide any medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. I am not a medical doctor. The information provided here should not be used for the diagnosis or treatment of any medical condition and cannot be substituted for the advice of physicians, licensed professionals, or therapists who are familiar with your specific situation. Consult a licensed medical professional or call 911 if you're in need of immediate assistance, and be sure to know the crisis hotline 988 if you are in need of support. We are better with hope. Please feel free to check out theshinehopecompany.com, where we list all of our resources around how to hope. We have a lot of free programs for how to hope, including the 5-day challenge, our hope infographic with a lot of skills that showcase how to hope, and articles of how to incorporate hope in your life. We have the Hope Beat Weekly, which is a weekly newsletter that shares strategies for hope. We have my Shine Hope Story template, so you can write your own Shine Hope story today. Also, my Shine Hope Hero, so we can share what our heroes are doing to activate hope in our lives. And this is especially good with youth, so they can start looking up to people that have overcome similar challenges to them and seeing how these heroes use the Shine Hope framework. We have a Hopeful Minds for Teens program and Hopeful Minds Overview Educator Guides. We have a new evidence-based college course so you can activate hope on the college campus. There are programs in the workspace, overview courses, 90-minute courses for learning the what, why, and how to hope. What I want you to know about hope is it's a skill you've got to practice to become more hopeful. It's easy to fall into despair and helplessness when we deal with challenges in life, and it takes intentional work and practice to get to hope. And yet it is always possible. So no matter what life brings, keep shining hope. Thanks so much for listening and have an awesome day.